starving alien mother abandoned her child at a human's house, but found a family instead. The night was dark and heavy with storm. The wind moved through the trees like a whispering crowd, and the old wooden farmhouse stood lonely in the field. Inside, the human farmer named Daniel sat near the dying fire, trying to keep warm. His day had been long, his work hard, and he wished for nothing more than sleep. But then he heard 3 soft knocks on the front door. Not strong knocks, not the kind made by a visitor. They were weak, almost like a desperate cry for help. Daniel frowned. Who would come this late? He stood, picked up a lantern, and walked slowly toward the door. The storm pressed against the windows, rattling the glass. The sound of rain on the roof grew louder. The knocks came again, even softer this time, like someone with no strength left. His heart beat faster. He opened the door slowly, expecting to see a neighbor or maybe a lost traveler, but there was no one. He lifted the lantern higher, the golden light stretching into the wet darkness. The porch was empty. The road beyond the field was silent. He was about to close the door when his eyes caught something small at his feet. A bundle, wrapped in rough fabric. It was trembling. Daniel bent down. His hands shook as he touched the wet cloth. He pulled it open, and his breath caught in his throat. Inside was a baby. But not a human baby. Its skin was pale silver, glowing faintly in the lantern light. Its eyes were large, too large for its tiny face, shining with a dim blue color. The child gave a weak cry, soft and strange, like music broken by hunger. Daniel froze. His mind screamed at him. This was impossible. This was wrong, but his heart felt something else. Pity, fear, a strange duty he did not understand. Beside, the baby was a scrap of paper. The words were written in a trembling hand. Save her. Daniel stared at it. The storm howled. His mouth felt dry. Who had left this child? Why at his house? And why did the message feel like a command more than a request? The baby cried again, louder this time, and Daniel's choice was made for him. He could not leave it outside in the cold storm. He lifted the bundle carefully and carried it inside, shutting the door tight behind him. Near the fire, he unwrapped the fabric more fully. The child's small chest rose and fell too quickly. It was weak, hungry, afraid. Daniel tried to warm the baby with a blanket. He offered a little warm milk from the kitchen, not knowing if the child could drink it. To his surprise, the baby sipped greedily, as if it had not eaten for a long time. Daniel sat back, staring at the strange child. He had no answers, no idea what danger this would bring. But something in him refused to abandon her. Hours passed. The storm did not stop. Daniel dozed in his chair, the alien baby wrapped safely against his chest. Then suddenly he felt it, the sense of being watched. His eyes opened. He looked toward the window. For a moment, he thought he saw nothing. But then there, beyond the glass, 2 faint glowing eyes in the dark. They stared at him. Stared at the baby. Then vanished into the storm. Daniel's skin went cold. Whoever had left the baby was still out there, watching, waiting. He held the child closer, his heart heavy with a truth he could not deny. This was no ordinary night. His life had just changed forever. The storm finally ended with the first light of dawn. The fields outside the farmhouse were wet and heavy with mud. Mist curled above the ground, and the sky carried the soft gray of morning. Daniel stepped out of the house with tired eyes. He had spent the night holding the strange baby close, feeding her in small sips, listening to her quiet breathing. The child had survived the night, but he knew something more was waiting outside. He still remembered the glowing eyes in the dark. He carried his lantern and walked toward the barn. The ground was soft under his boots, and water dripped from the roof. At first, he thought the place was empty. Then, near the corner of the barn, he saw something move. A figure. Daniel froze. His first thought was danger. His second thought was pity, for the figure was not standing strong. It was collapsed on the ground, half hidden in the mud. He moved closer, his heart racing. The figure was a woman. Not human. Her skin was pale silver, like the baby's. Her hair was tangled, dark, and heavy with rain. Her body was thin, too thin, like she had not eaten for many days. Her arms shook weakly as she tried to rise, but she fell back with a soft cry. Daniel's breath caught in his chest when he saw her eyes. They glowed the same dim blue as the baby's, filled with pain and hunger. The woman tried to speak. Her lips moved, her voice weak. "My baby." Daniel blinked. His hands gripped the lantern tighter. This was the mother, the one who had left the child at his door. He stepped back. Part of him wanted to run back into the safety of the farmhouse. But the other part of him knew this woman was not here to harm. She was broken, desperate, and more helpless than dangerous. The woman's hand reached out, touching the mud. "Please, my baby." Her voice cracked like dry leaves. Daniel stood there, silent. He looked back toward the house. The baby was inside, wrapped safely by the fire. Then he looked down at the woman again. She was shaking, barely breathing. Her hunger was written across her bones. Slowly, Daniel lowered the lantern. He bent down, pulling her arm gently to help her sit up. She was cold to the touch. Her eyes widened as she realized he was not pushing her away. She whispered, "You saved her?" Daniel did not answer with words. Instead, he helped her to her feet. She leaned on him with almost no strength. Step by step, he guided her toward the farmhouse. Inside, the warmth of the fire greeted them. The baby cried at the sound of her mother's voice. The woman fell to her knees near the child, clutching her close with trembling arms. Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered soft sounds in a language Daniel did not understand. The baby pressed against her chest, quiet now, safe again. Daniel stood by the fire, watching. His mind spun with questions. Why had she left the child? Why had she come back? And what danger had driven her to such desperation? The woman looked at him. Her lips trembled. "We were hunted," she whispered in broken English. "They wanted my baby. They take everything. I run, but no food. No strength." Her words were broken, but Daniel understood enough. She was running from someone. And those glowing eyes last night had not been her own. Someone else was watching. Someone who wanted her child. The mother tried to rise again but fell. Daniel brought her a small bowl of broth, the only food he had ready. She drank slowly, like each sip was saving her life. As the fire burned warmer, the farmhouse seemed smaller. The truth pressed down on Daniel's chest. His home was no longer only his. Now it sheltered a starving alien mother and her fragile baby. And outside, in the mist of the morning, unknown hunters were searching. For the first time in years, Daniel felt the old fear of war stir in his blood. He looked at the woman and the baby. He had saved them once, but could he keep them safe again? The answer, he feared, would come soon. The night came again, and with it came fear. Daniel could feel it in the walls of the farmhouse, in the way the wind pressed against the windows, in the way the animals in the barn grew restless. Even the baby cried more than usual, her small voice breaking the silence again and again. The alien mother, who had given only one name, Lyra, sat near the fire. Her silver skin reflected the flickering flames, and her arms wrapped tightly around her baby, as if she could protect her with nothing but willpower. Her eyes did not blink often. They stared at the shadows as if expecting something to crawl out of them. Daniel tried to act calm. He carried wood for the fire, fixed a loose shutter, and set out food. But inside, his heart was heavy. He knew something was wrong. Ever since he found the baby, nothing had felt safe. It was midnight when the first sign appeared. A faint glow outside the window. Not from the moon. Not from lanterns. It moved slowly across the field. Then another light appeared. And then another. Daniel's breath caught. These were not fireflies. These were too large, too steady. Lyra's eyes widened. She rose so fast the baby stirred and whimpered. "They are here," she whispered. Daniel turned. "Who?" Her hands trembled as she clutched the child. "Hunters. They followed us. They never stop. They want her." Her voice cracked with terror. Daniel felt the words like cold water down his back. Hunters. He had heard stories. Rumors from travelers about alien slavers moving through the outer lands, selling the weak, stealing children. He never believed it fully. Now he was staring at proof. The lights outside grew closer, moving in a slow line across the wet ground. Daniel rushed to the window, pulling the curtain shut. His hands shook. "Why her?" he asked, voice low. Lyra pressed her forehead against her baby's head. "Because she is young. Strong blood. They raised them to fight, to serve, to stopped," her voice breaking. Tears slid down her cheeks. "I could not let them take her. I ran. But they follow always." Daniel looked at her. The firelight showed every line of exhaustion on her face, every scar of suffering. He thought of the baby's small cry on his doorstep, of the note that begged him to save her. He thought of the glowing eyes that had watched from the storm. He walked to the door and checked the lock, though he knew it would not stop hunters. His mind raced. He was just a farmer. His days of fighting were long past, left behind with the memories of old wars. But could he sit still now, knowing that these 2 lives would be taken if he did nothing? The lights outside stopped. Silence fell, heavier than before. The only sound was the crackle of the fire and the baby's soft breathing. Then came a whistle. "Long and sharp," Lyra gasped. "They call to each other," she whispered. She grabbed Daniel's sleeve with desperate strength. "Please, hide us. If they see us, they take us. They will not ask. They will kill." Daniel stared at her hand on his arm. He had no plan, no weapon strong enough, no allies nearby. But he felt the weight of her words and the trembling of her baby. Something in him hardened. "Go to the cellar," he said. His voice was steady now. "Take the child. Stay quiet. Do not move until I come for you." Lyra hesitated, but his eyes told her there was no room for argument. She ran to the cellar door, clutching her baby, disappearing into the darkness below. Daniel stood alone in the farmhouse now, the fire burning low. He took down his old rifle from the wall. His hands were not as steady as they once were, but his eyes burned with the fire of duty. Outside, another whistle answered. Footsteps squelched in the mud. Shadows moved across the windows. Daniel lifted the rifle, his breath slow. The hunters were near, and he knew this night would decide everything. The cellar was dark and cold. Lyra held her baby close, rocking her slowly, trying to calm the child's quiet cries. Every sound from above made her heart jump. Every creak of wood, every distant whistle outside, felt like a knife pressed against her chest. She whispered in her own language, soft songs of comfort, but her eyes never left the steps leading back up. Above her, Daniel stood guard by the window. The rifle in his hands was heavy, older than him, but still strong. His eyes scanned the shadows outside. The hunters were near, too near. He could hear their footsteps in the mud, the low growl of some animal they used as a tracker. Minutes turned to hours. The fire burned low, and the cold of the night crept into the farmhouse. But still Daniel waited. He thought about Lyra's face when she begged him to hide her. He thought about the baby's small fingers gripping her blanket. And he thought about the eyes in the storm the night before, when the noises outside finally faded into the distance. Daniel did not relax. He waited longer, his ears sharp, until silence became heavy. Only then did he open the cellar door. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes wide with fear. "Gone," she whispered. "For now," Daniel said. His voice was steady, but his hands shook when he lowered the rifle. "They'll be back," she nodded. Her arms tightened around her child. Then, for the first time, she whispered her name fully. "Lyra, my name." "Lyra," Daniel gave a slow nod. "Daniel," he said simply. She repeated it softly, almost like the word was strange on her tongue. Then she looked at him with tired eyes. "You could have left us," she whispered. "Why did you not?" Daniel sat at the edge of the cellar step. He did not answer right away. His gaze was far away, as if seeing an old memory. "Long ago," he said finally, "I was a soldier. I saw too much. Too many mothers crying, too many children without homes. I swore I'd never turn away from someone who needed help again. Maybe that's why." Lyra listened, silent. For the first time, her fear softened into something else. A small piece of trust. The baby stirred in her arms, coughing weakly. Lyra's panic returned. She brushed her hand against the child's face, whispering in her language. Daniel leaned closer. "She needs food. Real food, not just milk. And rest. Let me try." He went to the kitchen and returned with soft bread soaked in broth. Lyra hesitated, but then accepted. The baby ate in small bites, her color warming just a little. Relief washed across Lyra's face like sunlight breaking through clouds. She looked at Daniel again. "Thank you," she said. Her voice broke on the words. For a moment, there was quiet between them, broken only by the fire upstairs. But then Lyra's eyes grew sharp. "You must know," she said. "They will not stop. Hunters do not forgive. They smell weakness. If they see you protect us, they will hunt you too." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Let them come," he said. But inside, he felt the weight of her warning. He was just one man. One farmer with an old rifle. Could he fight a group of hunters alone? Lyra saw the doubt in his eyes. She reached out, touching his arm lightly. Her voice was low, urgent. "Do not risk for us if it means death for you. Just save her. If you must choose, save my baby." Daniel looked at her hand on his arm, then at the baby's wide glowing eyes. He shook his head firmly. "No, I don't leave people behind. Not anymore. You both stay. You both live." Lyra's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were not only from fear. For the first time since she ran from her captors, she felt a small spark of hope that the baby slept peacefully at last, her breathing soft and steady. Lyra rested against the wall, her head heavy with exhaustion. Daniel went back to the window. The night was calm again, but the calm felt false, like a pause before the storm. He tightened his grip on the rifle and whispered to himself, "They'll be back. And when they come, they'll find me waiting." The next evening came with an unnatural silence. The fields outside Daniel's farmhouse usually sang with the sound of crickets, the distant bark of dogs, and the soft rustle of trees. But tonight, there was nothing. No voices of nature. No sound of life. Only stillness, heavy and sharp, like the world was holding its breath. Daniel knew what that meant. They were close. He checked the rifle again, loading the last of his bullets. His hands were steady now. Fear had burned away, leaving only determination. Behind him, Lyra stood with her baby pressed against her chest. Her eyes followed him, her face pale with worry. "Stay in the cellar," he told her. "Do not open the door until I call." Lyra shook her head. "They are many. You are one. You cannot fight them all." Daniel gave a half smile that held no joy. "I don't need to fight them all. I just need to buy you time." Lyra wanted to protest, but the baby stirred and whimpered, and she bit her tongue. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "May the stars protect you." Daniel nodded once and stepped outside into the cold night. The air smelled of wet earth and smoke. He crouched low near the barn, watching the edge of the field. The mist was rising again, curling like ghostly fingers across the grass. Then he saw them shapes moving in the fog. Tall figures, cloaked in dark armor, their faces hidden by masks that glowed faintly red. At their sides moved beasts, low and snarling, with glowing teeth that lit up the fog. Hunters. Daniel gripped his rifle tighter. Memories of war rushed back, of ambushes in broken villages, of shadows in ruined streets. He had thought those days were long gone. But here it was again, death walking toward him. One of the hunters raised a hand. The others spread out, silent and precise. They were trained. They had done this many times. Daniel's heart pounded. He raised the rifle and fired. The shot cracked through the night, echoing across the fields. One of the hunters fell, dropping into the mud. The beasts snarled, their glowing teeth flashing as they lunged forward. Daniel fired again, striking another. But there were too many. From the shadows, a sharp voice rang out. It was deep, metallic, full of command. Give us the child, human. Walk away, and you live. Resist, and your bones will feed the ground. Daniel shouted back, his voice strong. You'll get nothing from me. The beasts rushed forward. Daniel rolled behind the barn, firing as they came. One beast fell, but another leapt at him, its jaws snapping inches from his face. He swung the rifle hard, striking it across the skull. The beast yelped but did not stop. Its claws raked his arm, tearing through cloth and skin. Pain shot through him, but he forced it aside. He stabbed the barrel of the rifle into the beast's chest and pulled the trigger. The creature dropped, silent at last, but the hunters were closing in. Red lights cut through the fog as they advanced. Daniel's bullets were almost gone. Inside the cellar, Lyra clutched her baby, tears running down her cheeks as she listened to the sounds of gunfire and roars outside. Every shot made her flinch. Every silence made her heart stop. She wanted to run to him, to fight beside him, but she knew she could not leave her child. Outside, Daniel's back hit the farmhouse wall. He was breathing hard now, blood dripping from his arm. Only 2 bullets left. He raised the rifle, his eyes burning with defiance. The leader of the hunters stepped forward, his mask glowing brighter. He lifted a long spear that hummed with strange energy. Last chance, human, he growled. The child is not yours. Surrender. Daniel spat blood on the ground and raised his rifle. Then come and take her. The hunters moved as one, shadows closing in, their beasts growling low. The night filled with the sound of war once more. And in that moment, Daniel knew this fight was no longer only about survival. It was about choice. To stand or to fall. To protect or to surrender. And he would never surrender. The rifle was empty. The night was alive with red lights and snarling beasts. Daniel's breath came sharp and heavy, his arm bleeding where claws had torn him. He stood against the farmhouse wall, clutching the useless weapon, sweat and blood mixing on his face. The hunters moved closer, their steps slow and certain, like predators circling prey. Inside the cellar, Lyra pressed her ear against the wooden door. Every sound outside cut into her heart. She heard Daniel's shouts, the gunshots, the roars of beasts. Then silence. Long, heavy silence. Fear strangled her breath. She held her baby tight, whispering, "Stay quiet, little star. Stay quiet." Then a scream tore the air. It was Daniel's voice. Lyra's whole body shook. She could not sit still any longer. She looked at her baby's glowing eyes, then kissed her forehead. "Forgive me," she whispered. She laid the child gently in a basket, covering her with blankets. Then she rose and pushed open the cellar door. The night was red with the glow of hunter masks. She saw Daniel on his knees, 2 hunters gripping his arms, forcing him down. His rifle lay broken in the mud. His face was pale, but his eyes still burned with defiance. The leader stepped forward, spear humming with energy. His voice was deep and cruel. "Stupid human. You could have lived. Now you die. The child is ours." Lyra's cry cut the night. No, every head turned. She stood on the farmhouse steps, silver skin shining in the moonlight, her hair wild, her eyes fierce despite her weakness. She held nothing but her courage, yet her voice carried like thunder. "You will not touch her." Daniel's heart sank when he saw her. "Go back," he shouted, struggling against the hunter's grip. "Stay hidden." But Lyra did not move. She lifted her chin, her voice breaking but strong. "Take me if you must. But leave her. She is innocent." The leader laughed, the sound like metal grinding stone. "We take both." The mother and the child fetched double the price. Lyra's knees weakened. For a moment, despair washed over her. But then she remembered Daniel's words the night before. "You both stay. You both live." Something in her refused to bow. She spread her arms wide, her body between the hunters and the farmhouse. Her voice rose in her own language, a chant, a song that trembled with sorrow and fire. The baby inside stirred at the sound, her small cry joining the night. Daniel felt strength surge through him. He twisted, breaking free from one hunter's grip, and slammed his elbow into the other. Pain exploded in his side as the leader's spear struck, grazing his ribs with burning energy, but he refused to fall. He grabbed the broken rifle, swinging it like a club, smashing it against the hunter's mask. Sparks flew, and the hunter stumbled back. Lyra's chant grew louder, and the baby's cry echoed it, strange and powerful. For a moment, even the beasts hesitated, their glowing teeth snapping in confusion. The leader roared, charging toward the farmhouse steps. His spear lifted high, aimed at Lyra's chest. Daniel saw it and ran, his body screaming in pain, his breath ragged. He slammed into the leader with all his weight. The spear missed Lyra by inches, cutting deep into the wooden door instead. The two men fell into the mud, struggling. The leader was stronger, armored, ruthless. Daniel's fists bled as he struck, but the hunter did not fall. The spear lifted again. Lyra's eyes widened. She grabbed a fallen stone from the ground and hurled it with all her strength. It struck the leader's mask, cracking it. The glow inside flickered. He growled in fury, turning toward her. Daniel used that 1 second. He snatched the spear and drove it upward, straight into the hunter's chest. The leader's roar shook the night as he fell, his armor sparking, his red light fading into nothing. Silence followed. The other hunters froze, their masks blinking uncertainly. Their leader was gone. Daniel collapsed to his knees, chest heaving, the spear still in his hand. Lyra ran to him, falling beside him, her hands trembling as she touched his wounds. "You cannot die," she whispered fiercely. "Not now." From the farmhouse came the baby's cry, louder than before, cutting the night. Every hunter turned toward the sound. The fight was not over. It had only reached the breaking point. The leader's body lay in the mud, his mask broken, his red glow gone forever. But the night was not silent. The other hunters stirred, their armor shifting, their masks flickering with anger. They had lost their master, yet their mission was not finished. Their prize was still inside the farmhouse, the baby. Daniel knelt in the mud, blood running down his arm, his chest burning from the spear's strike. He could barely breathe, but his grip on the fallen spear was tight. Beside him, Lyra crouched low, her silver skin glowing faintly in the moonlight. Her baby's cries echoed from inside the house, each wail like a beacon calling danger closer. The hunters began to advance. Slow, steady, their beasts growling with hunger. Daniel forced himself to stand, though his legs shook. "Stay behind me," he told Lyra. His voice was hoarse, but his eyes burned with fire. Lyra shook her head. "No, we fight together." For the first time, Daniel did not argue. He nodded once, gripping the spear. The hunters charged. The first beast lunged, glowing teeth snapping. Daniel swung the spear in a wide arc, striking its side and sending it crashing into the dirt. Another beast rushed, but Lyra was ready. She grabbed a burning log from the fire pit and thrust it forward. The flames roared, the beast recoiling with a scream of pain. The hunters shouted in their strange tongue, their red masks glowing brighter. One raised a weapon, firing a crack of blue energy that scorched the farmhouse wall. Daniel ducked low and hurled the spear with all his strength. It pierced the hunter's chest, dropping him where he stood. Lyra screamed in her language, a sound full of rage and grief. Her voice carried like thunder across the field. The baby's cry grew louder, almost an answer, a strange harmony that filled the night. The hunters hesitated, their movements faltering, as if something unseen pressed against them. Daniel felt it too, a pulse in the air, powerful and strange. He looked at the baby through the farmhouse window, her glowing eyes wide and bright. It was not just a cry. It was something more. Something deep. The hunters froze, their beasts whining, ears flat against their skulls. Then, one by one, they began to retreat. Their red lights blinked uncertainly, and their growls faded into the mist. Without their leader, without their strength, they had no will to face the power rising inside that farmhouse. Within minutes, the field was empty again. Only silence and the smell of smoke remained. Daniel fell to his knees, exhausted. His vision blurred, his body trembling from blood loss. Lyra dropped beside him, her hands pressing against his wounds, her tears falling fast. "Stay alive," she begged. "You cannot leave us now." He gave a weak smile. "Still here," he whispered. "Not going anywhere." The baby's cries softened into small coos, as if the danger had passed. Lyra looked toward the child, then back at Daniel. Her eyes shone with gratitude and something deeper. "You saved us. You saved her. You are not only a farmer, you are protector." Daniel shook his head slightly. "I didn't do it alone." He met her eyes. "You're stronger than you believe." For a long moment, the two sat together in the mud, the farmhouse behind them, the child safe inside. The night sky cleared, stars shining bright above, no longer hidden by storm or mist. Lyra leaned against him, her voice soft. "Hunters will return someday. But tonight we live." Daniel looked at the glowing eyes of the baby, the hope in Lyra's face, and the quiet field around them. For the first time in many years, he felt purpose burning inside him. He had taken them in by chance, but now he knew it was no accident. He whispered, almost to himself, "Then we'll be ready." And with that promise, the farmhouse stood not as a lonely place in the fields, but as a home reborn. A home of defiance, of trust, and of a new family forged in the fire of danger.